The Netgear Orbi is a new type of home Wi-Fi router. Rather than a monolithic all-powerful unit, it uses a main router and a second hub router to better help distribute the Wi-Fi signal throughout your home. Now, this general concept isn't anything new. You have of course been able to buy conventional Wi-Fi extenders for years, while there are a number of alternative multi-router or mesh systems such as those from Ubiquiti, Eero and even Google. However, the Orbi system has three key features that make it arguably the single best solution of the lot for typical large homes. The first is that unlike most other mesh router systems, the Orbi router and hub aren't modestly powerful single or dual band units. Instead, each is a proper high-end tri-band router, with 4 Ethernet ports for connecting wired devices and a USB port for sharing printers and hard drives. This means that you don't end up having to buy 3 or 4 or 5 units to scatter all throughout the home, but can rely on having just the 2 devices. This leads to the second key advantage of this setup, which is that one of those 3 Wi-Fi bands is dedicated solely to communication between the router and the hub, leaving the other 2 bands on each router to be continually available for communication to all your devices. This means that you don't have one of the key problems with most Wi-Fi extenders and some mesh systems, which is that they rely on a single Wi-Fi band to talk to your router and then to your devices. This limitation results in having to switch between the 2, greatly reducing the overall speed and reliability of the connection. The third advantage is that, like other mesh systems but unlike most Wi-Fi extenders, the Orbi uses a single SSID for all your Wi-Fi connections. So even though you've effectively got 4 Wi-Fi signals that could be available to a device, you'll only ever see one name, and the router and hub will decide which band is the best for you to use at any given time. In contrast with some dual band extenders, you can end up with all 4 SSIDs to choose from. What's more, all this requires almost no setup. The Orbi router and hub come as a matched pair, so you just plug them in and away you go. And how does it perform? Well, I set up the Orbi in a typical British 3-storey brick-built home, with the router connected downstairs at one side of the building where the phone line comes in, then placed the hub in the middle of the middle floor. For comparison, I also installed the Netgear R7800, which is the fastest dual-band router I've tested. Note that this being a dual-band router doesn't mean it's in any way at a disadvantage, as the Orbi is effectively running in a dual-band mode. And indeed the R7800 will happily beat the Orbi for overall speed in close-range tests. The real test though is how they perform at long range. So I tested overall throughput in 3 different locations, on the middle floor towards the back of the house, and on the top floor in one room at the front of the house and one at the back. And the results are pretty impressive. In the middle floor room, the R7800 held its own, managing a decent figure of 226 megabits per second, but the Orbi managed 426. Moving upstairs, the R7800 dropped to just 161 megabits per second in one room and 105 megabits per second in the other. Meanwhile, the Orbi could still manage 357 megabits per second and 261 megabits per second respectively. What's more, in those top 2 rooms, the connection to the R7800 was noticeably more prone to dropping out or slowing down. So the Orbi works, but are there any drawbacks? Well, the first potential stumbling block is price. A router and hub combo costs £350, which is, well, it's about the cost of 2 conventional high-end tri-band routers. That may seem a ludicrous amount, but if you need the coverage, you need the coverage, and it compares favourably to other mesh router systems. Most of those come with 3 routers for a similar price, but each unit is lower power and has far fewer features. That said, if you have a particularly large home or office building, then you will likely still need to buy even more hubs to get full coverage, in which case one of the other mesh systems might suit you better. Although you can add more hubs to the Orbi network, each is more expensive, you may not always need all the features it offers, and you start to lose the advantage of the dedicated band anyway. Meanwhile, as compared to more conventional routers, some may not like that you can't separate the single SSID of the Orbi back out into individual SSIDs for each band. And in fact, the overall menu system is relatively basic. There's far more on offer here than any other mesh system, but not as much as Netgear's Nighthawk routers, for instance. As for other solutions, some combination of a router, powerline networking and Wi-Fi extenders can get the job done, but it's a lot more hassle. So all told, the ease of setup, the convenient one SSID connection and the sheer performance and features means that for your typical large home, the Orbi is just about the ideal Wi-Fi solution.